Hi everyone, this is a nonsensical commentary on Bird and Beans. And apparently this game was good enough to get nominated for Homebrew of the Year, but... Well, there's a few noteworthy issues with this game that I would like to point out right off the bat. For one, there's no title screen. I didn't think that you would need a title screen for an Atari game at the time I made this. But eventually, I kind of realized that most homebrews usually have a title screen, so that's kind of an issue with this game. And secondly, and perhaps the most important issue, look at the number of scan lines. It's supposed to be 262. I use 255. Which is an issue, because it kind of rolls on real hardware. Once the thing passes, I'll probably push out a quick update to fix that, but whatever, I don't really care at this point. Anywho, another issue. You can't press the fire button in order to start the game. You gotta press F2. Well, it's F2 if you're playing on a computer like I am, but it's like a reset on an actual system. Anywho. So, you got beans, and they fall to the ground, and if they hit your head, you're dead. Also, yes, that is the same startup sound as Balloon Trip, just so you know. And try to get more points by eating beans. And if I let a bean drop, you notice it makes a hole. So if I go over the hole, well, would you look at that? I can't cry. And of course, getting your tongue higher gets you more points, and stuff like that. And the white beans, they recover a thing. And the blue bean, which should be coming up soon, it will clear all the beans on the screen and restore all of the blocks. So for those who don't know, this is not an original game. People stop shutting doors, good lord. Anyway, this is a port of... I initially said it was a DSiWare game. That's kind of a misnomer. Its first standalone release was on DSiWare, but initially, the very first time you could play it was in the first WarioWare for Game Boy Advance. I think it was an unlockable minigame there, and you could play it there. So technically it was first on the Game Boy Advance. And yeah, you just kind of eat beans. And the beans get faster, and there's greater in number, and it's harder to get all the beans. Because you notice I already have a bunch of holes over there. That's kind of an issue. Ah, gee. Ah, crap. How ironic, huh? So first things first, I would like to point out, a couple of differences. For one, you may notice that all of the beans are moving at the exact same speed. But in the original game, they could move at different speeds. I did that because... Well, the reason I chose this game to begin with was because I could easily see it on, an Atari. The bird itself would be one of the sprites, the beans all share another sprite, and the tongue is the ball sprite. And of course, the ground below would be actually, let's... There we go. So you saw everything. And the ground below would be playfield and stuff like that. So the problem with having all of the beans just be, Like, I didn't want there to be flicker, so all the beans move the exact same speed, but in the original version, they can actually move at different speeds. So it makes things a little harder in that version. And also, if you're noticing that a lot of the time, sometimes the beans kind of like... It's a pretty common pattern for the beans to just like drop in like a line. Like if you hold the button, yeah, like that, those four right there. That's actually a quirk of the random number generator. You see, basically how it works is that it's a 16-bit RNG. So there's 2 bytes. And when you're holding down the button, it swaps the values of the 2 bytes in addition to doing the normal calculations. Which kind of works sometimes because it changes up the RNG a little. But the problem with that is that sometimes you can get some really predictable patterns. Like, of course, with those lines of beans that are just... So in hindsight, I probably should have changed that. Probably could have used, like, the controller. Also, another thing that I kind of wish I did change was working a bit more on collisions. Because this entirely uses hardware collisions. Like, the ball and the beam use hardware collisions. I mean, it does also have to use a Y value in order to get where they touch. But the problem is sometimes it kind of looks like that you're getting it, but you really don't. So I probably should have fine-tuned that. And also, if you walk, like, directly into a bean, that can also just outright kill you. And even if it just lands on your beak, it outright kills you. So... collision-wise, I think I should have changed that. Like, in hindsight, I would have done it differently. I mean, in all honesty, I thought everyone forgot about this game in favor of Balloon Trip. I was genuinely surprised when this game got nominated. Aha. Oh, and another difference between the games is that the blue bean, in the original game, it's actually a rainbow bean. But in the code, the color also determines the type of bean. So if I were to make it like a rainbow bean, for instance, there would be points where I wouldn't be able to properly compare the colors. So instead, I just made the bean blue. And also, that particular bean didn't restore every block in the original game. It just restored, like, a bunch of blocks, but I figured that it would be less computationally expensive for me to just restore everything. So that was another change I made. And for those of you who have a Retron 77, some of you may know that there's a variant of this game on there that's called Pepper Penguin. And basically the Retron guys, they were all like, hey, we like your game, do you want us to put it on the thing? And I was like, sure, I guess. And of course, due to copyright, I quickly changed around the... It's like, the bird here is blue and red. And the beans are changed. But otherwise, the game's exactly the same. It's basically a ROM hack. Actually, I'm just gonna die real quick. So, if we change the difficulty real quick, we go into the secondary mode. This is based off of, quote, Beans 2. Which both of these games are usually packaged together. They're packaged here as well. So, he's supposed to be shooting seeds. But obviously it would be kind of hard to aim if you have some sort of reticle or whatever. Like, it needed some sort of feedback. I added kind of a subtle, I guess you can call it a laser effect. I mean, they're definitely not seeds. And you notice that his mouth kind of spits. I honestly don't like this version as much as the original. But since it was there, usually I included it anyway. And instead of aiming for the higher beans, generally you want to get multiple beans at once in this version. I'm not sure that there's too many people aware of this part of the game, because Zero Page only means one mode. Which frankly is understandable because there's no, like, menu. I don't think anyone wants to fiddle around with difficulty switches. Like, I feel like this game is just too easy. Like, this variant's too easy. Like, even on the DS and stuff, I think it's a little too easy. And while we're here, I guess I should also note that this is the first time I made a multi-sprite kernel. Which, overall, I think I did a pretty good job. Like, there's no gap in between the score and the beans, which I think is nice. Although they do just kind of disappear once they get to the bottom. Which may be an issue for some, but I guess it's okay. I don't really know. Anywho, so let's kind of see how the game ticks. So I'm going to change back into the normal mode. So as you can see, there's a bunch of beans over here. But the thing is, they're... so you can't actually see it. Thing you may notice is this little red line here. And that's to determine when you're at the edge of the platform. So right now, I think it's Sprite 1 Now, sprite 0 and playfield latch is currently on because it's touching the playfield. But if I let this thing go down, now it's not touching the playfield and it won't let me move it. And another dumb little minor thing is that I was extremely wasteful with how I used the playfield. So not only is there like 5 bytes dedicated to just building the playfield at the bottom, there's also 30 different bytes, one for each individual playfield block, determining whether or not it's on, which I think is extremely wasteful. In hindsight, I should have used like a lookup table of some sort so that I would have been able to just reduce that down to 5 bytes. And I also could have made the playfield symmetrical so that I could just use 4 bytes instead of 5. And you may have noticed that I'm using the same scoreboard as Balloon Trick. And once again, I am going to be blatantly honest, I have absolutely no idea how that thing works. Like, back when I was doing my doodle jump, I just wrote it. And I wrote it extremely haphazardly. And somehow I eventually got it to work. And I was like, okay, I guess this worked. And I basically used the same scoreboard again and again until I finally did away with it in a Tumble Temple. So yeah, that's the game. It's not super impressive or anything, but it functions. And considering it was one of my first efforts, I think it's fairly solid, although in hindsight, there's a lot of changes that I would have liked to make to it. So thanks for actually watching the end and stuff like that. So have a good day.